And it's so quiet. Love this, dude. Feels like a new bike. All right, what is going on, my dudes? Welcome to my garage. Today we're doing something exciting on the Burromax. It's getting a belt drive conversion kit, courtesy of Belts and Shit. I'm gonna have to censor that name for YouTube's sake. Got to keep this family friendly. Here's what comes in the package. You get a front pulley. This one's a 13 tooth CNC'd. You get some nuts and bolts, a pulley removal tool. You get the rear pulley, which is 3D printed. And initially I was like, yo, that's sketch, 3D printed pulley. But when you look at the belt, it's going to be something like this on the bike. At any given time, you have like 50 teeth touching. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. Also, you get a file. With any 3D printed parts, you're going to have some stuff that's going to need some filing. And then you get a paint marker for indexing your hardware. So we're just going to jump into it here. Now, I haven't actually had any issues with the stock number 35 chain setup. It's overkill for how much power the bike's making. The only issue with it is it's loud. Yeah, the thing's loud. So belt drive kit hopefully is going to make it significantly quieter. Let's jump on into what we actually need to do. Now with your Burromax, you should have received a toolkit like this. That's going to be our starting point. We're going to want an Allen key. Nope, not that one. There we go. First thing we're going to take off is this little plastic chain guard. It helps if you have your bike on a stand like this, although the Burromax is very rear heavy, so won't actually balance on there. But yeah, we'll go ahead and take this thing off first. Now, the pulley is kind of interesting, the rear pulley at least. Go ahead and yank that thing out, set that aside. The rear pulley, if you look at it here, it's not complete. This does not mount to the hub. We're actually going to have to drill holes in the stock sprocket to mount this thing on there. So that'll be interesting. Again, this is not a final product. This is like a beta test, so we may run into fitment issues. We'll see. Next thing we're going to want to do is take this wheel off, see if that gives us a little more room to work on the motor here, and also we'll be able to mock up the sprocket into the pulley there and see how that lines up. So to remove this, I think we need a 17 and a 15 or something. All right. That's all. So loosen up these two Allen bolts on the caliper. Go ahead and pull those out completely. And then we should be able to lift the caliper up and out. Just remember not to lose any of your washers here. All right, now that that's out, this caliper can be lifted off of the rotor. Just let that hang. Now we can pull this axle back out. And the wheel will drop free. Don't know where that came from. Oh, that came off this. All right. Cool. Get the chain off of here. And there's our tire. Let's go ahead and move on to removing the sprocket. Actually, while it's on here, let me see if this fits. Oh, look at that, dude. It fits. That's awesome. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and take this rotor off here. Find the right Allen key. All right. Now that that's off, let's go ahead and look at the fitment here. You can see there's our sprocket. There's our 3D printed pulley. And that fits in perfect. No slop at all. So that's how it'll look on the bike. So what we're gonna have to do is mark these holes and drill them out so that these two pieces will be attached. You just pull the camera off just to show you what I think might be an issue. This plate here that the motor attaches to is welded on the front and rear, and then there's a section here that's welded on. If we come around the side, I can show you right there. That, I think, is going to prevent us from getting the belt onto here, because the belt, unlike a chain, you can't separate it and wrap it through there. So I think that might be an issue for us, but we'll keep trudging along here, see how far we can get into the disassembly and see if we may be able to work around that somehow. All right, now to get the front pulley off, you're going to need a 12 mil wrench. Get yourself a glove or something and just clamp down on this chain to keep the pulley from spinning. And then we're going to take this thing off. I've already loosened it here. Just remember it's clockwise to loosen. It's reverse threaded. So going to go ahead and get this nut off here. Wow, that sounded bad. Going to get the nut off of the motor shaft. There's that. Now we can go ahead and remove the motor. Already loosened up a couple of these. I think before I actually drop the motor out, I might disconnect the motor connector here, chop this little zip tie just so we can get the motor out completely, and then we'll stick the new pulley on there. This little motor connector, if you could see here, has a little twist lock thing on it. Spin that clockwise if you're in this orientation, and then you'll just be able to pull that connector free. That. Look at that. All right. Let's get this zip tie chopped here. Careful not to cut the motor wire. Okay, cool. Now the motor's able to drop free. So you have two, looks like just two on either side holding the motor in. Kind of hold it up as you take these out. I'm just going to loosen them to where they're barely holding on. That way I could back them out by hand and let the motor drop. Dude, how did they get it in here? What the heck? All right, got the motor out. It was a little difficult to drop out because of this kind of plug looking thing that was preventing it from dropping. You just kind of got to jiggle it and it'll drop free. Now with that out of the way, we can get a better look at what we're going to have to cut here on the swing arm. So again, this metal plate, it's welded in here, here, on the underside here, and then here. And that's the little piece we want to cut out. So I'll grab a grinder, cut it here, and cut it here. And that will give us clearance for the belt to come up in here. I'll show you what that looks like. That'll give us clearance to get the belt in here and wrapped around the pulley this way. But before I do any of that, I'm going to put the new pulley on the motor shaft, mount the motor back up, and just make sure clearances are good, make sure alignment's good, and then we'll go ahead and drop that back out and cut this piece out of our way. All right, now that our motor is out and the stock sprocket is off, we're going to want to install our new front pulley. Now this is probably the most important part of the process. The motor shaft has two flat spots you'll see, as does the opening on the pulley, so you'll want to line those up and push down hard. Like really force it on there. You're going to want the pulley to seat all the way. So you see that's not even on all the way. Going to go ahead and push down a little harder and you'll feel it kind of click. If it's not going in, don't try to force it. Okay, there we go. I don't know if you guys heard that click, but you really have to apply a good amount of pressure to get that thing seated. And what it'll look like here is on the shaft, you can't see any of the flat spot because the shaft is round on the very bottom. So make sure that's fully seated, apply a lot of pressure, you'll hear it click. And then once that's in place, we'll go ahead and take our included washer, drop it in there, and then our 13 millimeter nylock nut. Again, this thing is reverse threaded, so lefty tighty, righty loosey kind of thing. We'll use a 13 mil socket on this to get it tight. In order to fully tighten this nut, we're gonna have to put the belt over this, hold the belt, and then tighten so that the shaft's not spinning as we're tightening. This is hard to do solo. Go ahead and get a friend to hold the motor in place while you do this so it's not, spinning all over the place. I'll go ahead and get that done, and then we'll move on to the next part of this. So now we're going to move on to cutting out this little piece of metal while everything is off the bike. I'm just going to use a grinder with a metal cutoff wheel, and then I'll probably end up just spray painting the raw metal so it doesn't rust, and then we can proceed with the install. There we go. Got an old sprocket in there that should block the sparks from messing up the battery box. There we are. Looks pretty smooth. All right, boys, now that our cutting's done, it's time for some paint. Just gonna clean off the surfaces with some isopropyl alcohol. And then I'll be using this Krylon Rust Tough enamel. I've already used this product on the bike here previously. I scraped it up here and it was beginning to rust. You can see the finish matches pretty well. So go ahead and hit it with the coat of that, let it dry, and then we'll begin the install. All right, decided to move the party indoors. It was getting a little too hot in the garage. So here's where we're at. The swing arm is painted, that's looking good. I went ahead and drilled the rotor, or rather sprocket, off camera, and installed the rear pulley here using the included hardware. So that's good to go. At this point, we're gonna go ahead and throw the motor back in here, get this all mocked up and see if the alignment's good. And then we're pretty much in the home stretch from there. So, all right, there's our motor in. Get this last one tightened up, and we're good to go. Now, go ahead and mount this wheel up. Our motor's mounted up, all secure. We have the belt on here. Before we go ahead and put the rear wheel on, we're gonna push these in as far as we can. These are the tension adjustment nuts and bolts. So we'll screw those in to give us a little more space to play with here. All right. Here comes the worst part of the process, where you need to be an octopus in order to make this happen. So we're gonna thread our axle into here to keep that brake bracket in place. We're gonna wrap the belt onto this pulley and then lift this wheel up without the belt falling off. Yeah, it's more or less impossible. All right. Attempt number 69. All right, now that everything's put together, let's take a look at this fitment here. Tension looks pretty good. I still have yet to test it with the Cricket, but bike's been running fine. We have about 1 centimeter of clearance between the belt and the tire, and the belt is somewhat centered on the pulley. We have a little bit of a gap here. Again, the pulley's wider than the belt, and we have maybe 1 millimeter of overhang on this side, which is not too bad. I'm sure the final version of this should have it perfectly centered. So let's go ahead and see what she sounds like. Let's go ahead and try this out. I have a big group ride coming up tomorrow, so I want to make sure this thing is running reliably before that so I don't get stranded. What is that little trail? Might have to come back and check that out. Right off the bat, it feels smooth. So the controllers that come on these bikes are not known for their smoothness, and the belt takes out a lot of that sort of jumpiness when you're accelerating. So it feels pretty good. Let's hop off here. See. Oh yeah, she's quiet. There's still some noise, but it's more of a whining noise as opposed to a chain metal on metal noise. Let's get her up to speed here. I will say maybe acceleration is impacted a little bit. We'll try our top speed here. I am wearing a backpack. I'm actually going to pick up some groceries right now. Oh, we're still hitting 34. It's not bad. The gear ratio has changed a little bit. It's pretty close to stock, but we have a 93 tooth rear and then I don't know how many tooth front. It's effectively the same ratio. Feels pretty good. It's definitely quieter. There's a little bit of noise from the tires you can hear, and maybe a little bit of chain whine, or not chain whine, rather belt whine. And we may be able to fix that once we get perfect tension on the belt. But so far so good, man. This feels really nice. Let's see, where are we going? So it's through here and then to the right almost immediately. Just trying to find, oh, is that a little bunny? Hey bud, how you doing? Yeah, it was through here somewhere. I don't like the look of this, to be honest. I'm gonna try it. This is such a bad idea. Oh, that's all thorny. I feel like it gets worse over there. Definitely gets worse. Alright, no me gusta this. We gotta get out of here. It's full of snakes and thorny bushes. Ow, that's painful. Alright, we gotta find a way to go around. This is the type of stuff you kind of don't want to take your belt drive bike on because the little rocks can get in the belt and mess stuff up. But we're going to test this thing thoroughly, make sure it's reliable for the type of riding I actually do. This is real soft. It's quiet. I'm curious to see if the difference in noise level is noticeable through the video. Now, the benefit, theoretically, of a belt kit like this is less maintenance than a chain because you're not having to lubricate the chain. The belts don't really stretch, and if they do, you have those dropouts. You can tension it again. Let's see, let's pull on in here. We're actually just getting orange juice. That might be our only option there. Minute Maid, 100% orange juice. We'll grab a couple of those. Alright, sweet. Got what we needed. Let's Get this put away. Alright, let's get in this lane. Let's see. Alright, boys and girls, I think that's going to be about it for this one. Overall, super happy with how it's running. I like how it sounds. Install wasn't too difficult, other than having to cut that little support member out of the swing arm. I'm not too concerned with the fitment not being perfect because, again, this is a beta test of a product, and so that'll all be perfected when the final version comes out. But so far, it's running well. We've done, I don't know how many miles, probably 10 miles today, and the belt's still on there. So thanks again. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. Oh man, it's so quiet. Love this, dude. Feels like a new bike.